The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. Hooey, we are back. It is another episode of Innovative AAC Solutions. We're your hosts, Laura Hayes and Bridget Sahlberg. We are diving into the classroom again, Bridget. More caregiver, more classroom supports. And I know you have a great interview lined up for us, but I'm wondering, any go-to classroom supports to help with this idea of carryover across the day?
Yeah, so one resource that I used very frequently when I was in the classroom was the AAC Language Lab. If you're unfamiliar with this, please reach out to your AAC facilitator, as we have some subscriptions at our fingertips that we can send you guys, and it is a wealth of information. And the way that I specifically used it was in my therapy session, I would follow the lesson plan and introduce the concept to the students, but then I would kind of spiral it. So then the next week, I would do it on week one. In week two, paras would be able to introduce it during like reading or during leisure time play, during language, kind of focus time in the classroom. And then week three, we would send it home in the backpack, and parents could have a lesson plan at their fingertips. And it was also, literacy based or play based. So depending on what our students needed, and it was usually a combination of both, we were having that continuum of SLP introduce it, classroom teacher, paras, reinforce, and then parents reinforce the next week. So the student was really getting a solid amount of repeated exposure and became more familiar with the vocabulary. And this is one way that I saw more generalization and more carryover of students using that vocabulary, because we know our students need a lot of repetition and practice to learn these words and to learn their devices. So I felt like that was one really good way to do that. Another thing that I just came across, was also helping clear up. Sometimes I feel like we as adults all want to help, but we don't want to step on each other's toes in the classroom. I know that I always struggle with that. So I just found through the Building Wings seminar a graphic organizer that I recreated for us as a department. And I have cited the source, of course, but it really helps lay out clearly what is the common goal or problem at the very top of the organizer, and you can discuss it as a group. And I would suggest that we all come together as a group in the classroom and, use those early release or those late start days to kind of have these problem solving moments. And then talk about, what are we as staff doing? And I would be super specific. So as an SLP, I'm introducing the topic. I'm having my targets ready for the classroom to know what we're all targeting. As a teacher, I'm doing carryover in, reading lessons, or as paras, I'm helping charge devices. I'm helping make sure devices are out and ready and accessible. I am only prompting by a gestural cue, or whatever it may look like for each individual student or each individual scenario. Then the next part of the T chart would be what students are expected to do. So we're helping support students to learn how to take their devices throughout multiple settings. We're helping support students by having it out and ready when we're ready for work and at our desks or at the carpet. And then the last part of under the T chart is, what does the environment need? So we might need a laser pointer for cueing. We might need chargers out and accessible. We might need a strap for that AAC device. But all of these ways to really be explicit and lay out, what is my role? What is your role? And how do we work as a team to really help support one another? Which I have had the pleasure to sit down with Taylor Meyer, a para over at Stanton Elementary School in Rockwood, to hear about how she supports students all day long with that carryover and generalization piece in the classroom. So let's hear from Taylor.
Let's do it.
Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Taylor Meyer. Taylor, do you want to go ahead and give us a quick introduction as far as your path and background in regards to the schools and AAC?
Yes, I would love to. Hi, I'm Taylor. This is my sixth year of being a para. And kind of how I wound up here is I started as a toddler two program teacher at another school where I worked for 5 years. And then I kind of wanted to build upon those skills and learn something new. So I was recommended to the special school district and I applied, and that's how I wound up here. I do believe like working at a toddler program has kind of given me a hand up here because a lot of the skills I learned there, I was able to build upon here, especially with some of my students using AAC. Like a thing that I love that came easy for me is like working with toddlers. We were taught always to do simple phrasing and like give time for them to reply and don't like keep asking the same question repetitively. And that transitioned so nicely to me learning to work with kids that used like Allcom.
Yeah, and what was your starting point with AAC?
So I had no background in that, no starting point. So when I came here, it was all very brand new, and I got paired with a student my very first year who used that as his main source of communication. And so I learned a lot from the staff and the people around me, just watching how they interacted with him and brought it in his day to day. And then also, of course, you like during his SLP times and stuff, you allowed me to sit in, and then that was an opportunity for me to see how to make it like more fun and not just education based. It wasn't like me just bombarding them with questions and modeling. You showed me how it could be like a game and fun, and that really pushed that individual student into wanting to use it more. And so I carried that across with other students I work for, and I have found great success with that.
Yeah, and we had the pleasure of partnering together and working together as staff for, I want to say it was like 5 years or
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
one thing that I noticed with you is that it felt very natural and comfortable for you to jump in and to model key phrases, like you said, to use aided language input. But I was curious, what helped you move from beginner to feeling comfortable with AAC? Was there anything in particular?
So I think it was I don't know. I don't know if there was like one particular moment when I was like, oh, that was the moment that it came, but I think it was kind of a slow progression of just watching what I was being taught. And then when I implemented it and then saw the student then begin to grow in their learning, I became more confident. And so then also learning the program. So some of the programs are different, and having to learn the location of the phrases I'm looking for. Once I got confident to where those were, I could work much more efficiently to help my student then learn quicker.
And do you remember any of the supports that we kind of collaborated on together to help you feel more comfortable with that program?
Yeah, so some of the support, I mean, like I said, I sat in a lot of your sessions,
Therapy
but also you
sessions.
gave
Yeah.
me paper, yeah,
Yes.
like paper copies to go through for me to learn personally so I could talk back and forth with our student why he used his own device and I had the paper book device. And then
Hmm.
it really helped too when you put the big posters that we had out in the play area. So even if I was hands free at the time because I needed to be like able to use them, we had things to refer back to on our posters that were set up and permanently placed there. So that was all very helpful.
Yeah. So it sounds like those um, full printed versions of flip books. So
Yes, we're
I know that
awesome.
we had some students who used Boards for Life, which I hear from a lot of folks just around the district saying, hey, this is a hard program. It's not always intuitive. It doesn't always make sense to us adults. But you're saying that once you had that consistent exposure, that you started to memorize those pathways and then you could teach your student those pathways because you felt comfortable with it, right?
Yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Just having it for myself, then even when I wasn't with my student and I had some downtime, it would give me the opportunity to look at it, flip through it, and just grow comfortable and confident into what I was teaching. And yeah, it was very nice and helped a lot. So I encourage anyone who is new to AAC, like working with students that way, to start with that route and it'll build your confidence quickly.
Yeah, and I do just want to point out for folks, like Taylor saying, paper version is going to be the most accessible, but we also have laptop downloads, and you can ask as, an SLP or as a para or as a teacher, a link from your OGCOM facilitator. Can I have a link to the software emulator? And the majority of software, we actually can give you downloadable links, and you can click and you can see kind of the regular version. So not the customized version. It won't have the names of teachers or the names of friends, but just
Yeah.
the regular version. But that really, really helps people feel confident in that organization of how is this system organized? Because I feel like that is half the battle.
It definitely is. Yes, I would agree with that.
So besides that, what strategies did you help with your student learning OGCOM, both in special education and the general education settings? Because I know that, the students we work with are in both settings.
Yes, yeah. So I think the main strategy, of course, is modeling, just being consistent with that, constantly modeling, and giving them the opportunity to do it, like allowing wait times, allowing the space in gen ed too. It doesn't matter. The big thing I think you taught me, which was like so nice to like hear from words, is like their device is their voice. Like there's no quieting it. Like you don't take it. Like that's the way they communicate with the world and their peers and us and get across their means. So allowing that space, like even in the middle, like if they're interrupting class, like any other kid, like he can speak, they can do it. They can, and so allowing that time and letting them play with it and get the capabilities, whether they're just babbling, like pressing random buttons, our students babble, you know what I mean? So kind of that modeling, giving opportunity, and just becoming confident that they can do it. They are capable, they are smart, they know what they are wanting to say, and just letting them grow in that space and giving them the support to do it, I guess.
Yeah, and what I noticed also that you were such a natural with was when the student didn't yet know the words, you did a great job of jumping in and modeling either on low tech or on high tech, not in a bossy way, but in just I wonder if you're saying, and then you would model the phrase. I wonder if you're saying you're ready for a break, or I wonder if you're saying you feel happy. And you're so good at attributing meaning and cueing into your students who didn't have that language yet. Because I noticed that sometimes folks are quick to say, well, he just can't use it. And
Yes.
and what you're saying is we have to give kids time. We have to respect their developmental pathway, and it might not look the same as everybody else's. And I'm hearing you say that, it's their voice and that we're going to support them no matter what it sounds like or looks like. And it's okay that they're babbling and exploring, or even the word stimming, right? That it's okay that they're doing
Yes.
that.
Mhm. Yeah, but they're still growing. And like you said, like every kid's path looks very different. So as long as we're making progress forward, like I think that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, and something else that I think you and I had a unique um, way of doing was just communicating about what you saw in the classroom. Because you would text me and say,
Yes.
I'm noticing this is happening. Do you have insight? And also what I loved about um, what you saw in the classroom too was you would say, I think he needs this word. And
Yes.
can
Yes.
you
I was
speak to
big. I
that a
know I
little
had to
bit?
add so many words and so many kids because I just I want them to be able to express as much as they're wanting to express their needs. And yeah, so yes, I did do that quite a bit.
But then the next step that we took together was really teaming and deciding, hey, you can program the words too. Like we
Yes.
established trust that you understood the program thoroughly enough that you were able to customize it, because I started being split between multiple buildings. I wasn't always around. So I said,
Yeah.
just run it by me, no big deal. And then once you got the hang of it, you were even
Yes.
programming those,
Yes, I
which is
was.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
which was so nice. Yes. Just because like you said, on the day to day, like things could change and there'd be a word that he had never used and then all of a sudden it was a main vocabulary word for him. And so yes, it was nice to be able to do that and to get again more comfortable with the technology in those ways, like knowing that okay, I can do this, like I have learned, I am growing, and then I'm capable of helping him or her learn and grow in their speech as well.
Well, and it takes a team. Like
Yes.
everybody's job is important in education, and everybody has a role to fill. And communication is both a lifelong skill and it's also like a team supported skill. So it was just
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yes. And I
that's
worked really well as a team. So that was very nice, like coming in as a new person, never like experiencing these and having someone like you to just really get have me hit my feet like running, like on the ground with no background experience. And I feel personally that I built pretty quickly upon the skills that I was given. And just to have that support, I wouldn't have been able to do it without a mentor. So
oh,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, were there any mindset shifts that you noticed in you and in your team members in regarding using AAC?
Yeah, so kind of how I previously stated, I think it was definitely realizing like this is their voice was like a huge mindset shift for me. And then really wanting to make it a positive experience. Trying not to only use it for academics and like questions, trying to get them to use it for talking to their peers or for saying how they're feeling, just things like that that helped me grow and kind of notice like a shift of how important this part of their education is, and how important this part of their life is. It could really help them grow and go out into the world and be more confident and stand in what they believe in and express their needs. And that's kind of, I think, the shift from just putting it versus education versus lifestyle.
Yeah, and I would say that, what you touched on there was we as educators sometimes get really locked in on specific communicative functions. So we
Yes,
really hit hard on requesting or on expressing wants and needs. And you're telling me that there's so much more to it than just
so
that.
much.
And we were working on things like self advocacy with students that we shared and naming body parts because we know that part of growing up and moving through the world is being able to reliably report information and using body parts, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Whether they weren't feeling good, what was hurting,
Hmm.
just anything like that. We want them to be as independent as possible as they go into the world. So just remembering that this, the work we're doing here sets that path for them.
Definitely sets the tone and something that is hard to talk about and equally as important to talk about is knowing that students who are disabled and do have communicative um, disorders are more likely to be abused, more likely to be neglected. So I think we as a team had talked about how we want our students to be self advocates and also to be reliable reporters if needed, because you just don't know
You
what's
never know.
happening. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And being supportive of, taking the time to work through any situation. But while they're with us at school, we have eyes on them. We can help them move through, reporting information and being a reliable communicator. And I know
Yes.
that we talked about that quite a bit as a team, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah. So, yeah, it's just remembering all those things in the moments because, like you said, you can get so one track minded sometimes on a purpose and then trying to remember that this is their lifestyle and that's is our end goal in the end to make them more independent.
Right. And that communication is a life skill and that, it's just as important as any other skill in the IEP that we're writing. And I noticed that you especially were willing to go slow in order to go fast. And what I mean by that is you were able to slow down in the moment and really model those key phrases and really take the time to build that relationship with that student. And like you were using play opportunities. Do you want to touch a little bit about that? Because in the end, we helped shape communication through that.
Yeah, so I definitely took the time, like even with peers, because for him to model and to say the things he wanted, when working with peers in his gen ed setting, a lot of them viewed it originally as like an iPad. Like, our students get extra iPads and they were very interested in it and wanted to touch it and wanted to take it and see everything going on with it. So that was kind of a struggle for me in the beginning, just trying to figure out how to navigate this life to give him the best relationship with his peers. So teaching them to like give him a minute, back up. This is what he's saying. He's capable of saying it. And then saying, hey, let him ask for his turn when we were playing games like on the floor. It let him ask for his turn. Let him pick his color. Don't tell him what he's going to be. Like he can tell you what he wants, just like your other friends, and working with that with his peers along with him, it made them realize that he is just like them, like he's smart and he's funny and all these things they got to experience that they didn't realize that he was just because he is nonverbal. So seeing any of our students talk with their peers in games and advocate for themselves, like, no, my turn, or I want to be blue, or let's play soccer, whatever it is they're willing to do, it brings them joy, our students, but also makes their peers realize like, oh, wow, like they do have interests, like they do like this, and gives them an insight into who those kids are as individuals as well. And that was
Yeah.
something very exciting. So I never minded slowing down and advocating, like, no, please wait, like let him ask, like let him pick, and just really teaching them that he can and they should allow that space.
And I remember we had quite a few mother hens peers
Yes, we
who
do.
really wanted to help.
Always. Yes. Yes. And they mean the best. And so
Yes.
they're just giving him or her everything they want and need without making them, ask for it themselves or doing, which a lot of students do. And it is helpful at times to give them more independence, but like the two-hand option, do you want this or this? Are you feeling this or this? And that's so
Mhm.
limiting for our kids. Just only having two options, you know what I mean?
Right.
They want to, they can do so much more. They can pick from a variety of things. And it, like I said, can be helpful sometimes and like allow our students a little more independence to let a peer help them versus us like having them advocate for themselves or us stepping in to help. But yeah, it's just
But
really finding a
there's
good balance.
there's a time and a place for both,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we get it. You're moving through your day. It's a lot to manage, and students sometimes really do need simplified options
Hmm.
sometimes. But like you're saying, giving them full access to robust AAC and letting them express themselves ultimately is what we want. So we have to
Yes.
practice that and take the time to navigate those things. And
Yes.
sometimes students need some support along the way, but a lot of times what you're saying is the support that sometimes students need is that wait time
Hmm.
and for other communication partners to slow down and to be supportive while they're navigating their devices.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So, were there any other mindset shifts that really helped? I know that we had Cheryl Livingston, who was our OGCOM facilitator at the time. I know we had her come in and present a few times. Do you remember? Did you gain anything from those presentations?
Yeah, I did. It was kind of seeing a different side. So my first year kind of got locked in with one student,
Mm-hmm.
who I was with the majority of my time. So I saw kind of how he was learning and his systems and all that set. So when she would come in to present, she presented on a variety of more students who I hadn't worked with at the time, but have worked with since. Um, on different actual systems of how they're placed, different learning strategies, and just things like that that I was able to like make a mental note, not even knowing always that like I had that knowledge until it was presented in front of me a situation. I was like, wait, I do know this. Even if I hadn't previously worked with it, but like with someone who had these questions or learning things beforehand. So those were always helpful to me.
Yeah, and I think that, if you are listening to this episode today and you think, wow, the missing piece is that background knowledge, let your OGCOM facilitator know that, a presentation is worth their while and that the school is willing to have an OGCOM facilitator come out and present because a lot of times people and paraprofessionals especially want to help kids and
Yes.
just building that background knowledge can be the thing that tips the balance of being helpful versus wanting to be helpful and not knowing how, right?
Yes. And I would say too, just to build upon that, as for paras, even in the moment, if you don't have a student who you find it might be helpful for, like having access to all this knowledge, it's good to still go to things, even when you're not working with anyone in your group that currently would be helpful for these presentations, because I went to many that at the time I didn't think I needed that have since, after years of being here, I was like, wow, I'm really glad I did that. I feel better starting off with my new students because I do have these strategies or I have this knowledge. So I would encourage you to attend things that could be helpful even down the line, if not currently.
Right. And you never know when a sub is going to be involved and you have to, coach on the job, another
Yes.
para. You never know if somebody is going to, have some kind of an emergency and not be able to work the year like they thought they would be able to work the year. And if you have to switch roles or, change students or whatever, those things happen. So having that knowledge is ultimately powerful and ultimately helping more students. So I always say if I come into a building, I want all the paras to attend because you just can't predict what's going to happen
Yes.
with
No,
staffing.
yes. Flexibility
Yeah.
is a huge part of
Yeah.
our job.
And also, just thinking back to when I was the SLP, I did some mini PD that was asynchronous. Do you remember taking that?
Yes. Yes, I do. Yeah. I think that was maybe during COVID times.
It
Maybe.
was,
Yes. That's
yes.
what I was going to say. I was like, it was a while back, but I do
Yes.
remember. Yes.
Yeah, so we were all asynchronous at that point, but thinking about, early release days, late start days, whatever it may be, when paras are in the classroom, did you find that you benefited from those asynchronous models and from those group discussions?
Absolutely. Yeah, because it was like almost like a simulation, like you actually had to like work through some of it and that. And for me, I learn that way. I'm not an auditory learner a lot of the time. So like to see it like put out and done and then have the ability to try it myself is yes, very nice.
Yeah, and as an on-com department, we have asynchronous courses that are in Kickup. So if you're listening and you want to dive in more and learn about specific language systems or communication partner trainings, and you know that you're not going to have the opportunity for an in-person session, for some time down the road, potentially, jump on Kickup and you get those continuing maintenance hours. And you get really good, like Taylor was saying, like hands-on experience because it's almost like a simulation and there's discussion questions and kind of helps you to just further your own individual learning. So great to hear that you had that opportunity.
Yes.
Did you notice anything like specific that throughout the entire day working with your student that helped move the needle language wise?
I would say the biggest thing is just consistency, making sure everywhere we went, like he had the ability to use language if he wanted to. Not saying that that was always the case. Sometimes, just like typical kids, they're going, 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 and they're not interested in that at the moment. But yeah, consistently modeling, consistently being open to what his wants and needs are, and definitely advocating for when he did use like ask for something in particular or express his needs, making sure those were met, like because positive, I wanted him to have a positive association with developing his language.
Okay, so I heard you say a few things that I really want to reiterate. You consistently kept that device within arm's reach of your student all day
Yes,
long.
all day long, even if he didn't want to do it, even if it was always with us.
Right. So even if you think to yourself, I don't think we're going to use it in PE, still goes to PE. I don't
Yes.
think we're maybe going to use it during art class. No, we're still going to take it during to art class just in case, right?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and then the other thing that I heard you say too was that you were consistently modeling throughout the day. So
Hmm.
not putting pressure on him to respond, but
No.
you as the educator saying those
Yes.
keywords, pointing to those symbols, whether it's on low tech or on the student's device, if the student tolerates that. And then the other thing I heard you say was that, you were consistently having positive experiences with that student with
Hmm.
AAC in the
Yes.
mix too. So
Yes.
utilizing play opportunities. I know that I wrote a grant that got the classroom dedicated like play tubs and
Yes.
that I
We were
put
actually
those. Go, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually used the puppet one you had set together, and then it was so nice. That was one of our favorites for some of our students last year. And it was so nice because we had like the printed off sheets if you were new to learning like these games that walked you through it exactly step by step, and all the materials were in one bin. So it was such a great thing to grab and just do it. And our kids absolutely loved it last year.
Yeah, so
Like one in
using
particular.
play opportunities if they're younger, using
Mhm.
high interest motivation, so whatever their special interest might be if they're older, having a game plan because, me printing off those lesson plans, I think helped people feel confident that they
Yes.
knew
Where to
um
start. Yes.
yes, and what words that we were targeting and that different kids could be targeting different skills within the same play tub, right? Do you kind of want
Yes.
to talk about that?
Yeah. So, we have our kids who are lower nonverbal, and then we have our kids who are just developing language. They don't have all the right words, but they're more open to trying to get speaking where they want to come from. And so the games were a way to bring them all together. It allowed each one, no matter what level they were at, the opportunity to play and to communicate with one another in the game, and they could all participate. It wasn't like we had to divide into groups based on where they were at. No, we could just have our whole class come together and do it. And I love unity. Like I love everyone being included, and just that made that makes it easy on us teachers not only, but it just makes it feel so natural, and for our kids to not be overly stressed of like, nope, we're only doing these kids that can do XYZ, and those ones have to sit out and do something else. So just, yeah, the accessibility and the inclusion of it all was very nice.
Yeah, and just thinking from, an SLP perspective, that differentiation piece was not that hard. You take that game or you take the activity and, one word utterances, two word utterances, three word utterances, gestalt, and then slap it on the tab and you guys were ready to rock and roll after I explained it to you. And I know that that really helped with our students being able to generalize that those games were coming up in gen ed classes. We don't
Yes.
just play Uno in, the special education room. We play Uno for fun and having a good time and, being thoughtful about what we were targeting helped promote that generalization of skills in a social setting, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So just tapping into those special interests, I think, is really, really key to promoting that generalization piece. And then also just taking a step backwards and saying, wait a minute, what big rocks do we want to target? And how can we help promote this student learning this skill in a comfortable, supported way? And then once they've got that skill, how do we transfer it into a new setting, whether it's social, gen ed, lunchtime? But you guys
Yeah.
did such a great job with that. That's one of the best grants I ever wrote because it's been paying off for, I don't know, 10 years now.
Yes, yes, I was gonna say yes, even after, you've left our building, that
Yeah.
stuff is still here, it's still implemented, it's still used. So it is really great to have.
And then I am just curious, can you tell a story about your favorite AAC moment with an AAC user?
Yes. So I do have one story that has always stuck out in my mind. Um, when it comes to like feeling like I'm making a difference and like our kids progressing in that way. So I had a kid who every day would get a chocolate milk at lunch. It was his routine. He'd get lunch, he'd get his chocolate milk. Well, as a year like progressed, he ended up becoming dairy free. He had like something, so he was no longer allowed the chocolate milk at lunch. So I had talked with him prior going into our first day with no chocolate milk, saying like, hey, today like we can pick a juice, but we can't have any milk. Okay. So we kind of talked about it. I modeled it for him, like showing him his drink options of what he was going to be able to choose, an apple juice or an orange juice. And we get in there. And so we're in line, and of course, he goes for the chocolate milk. And I model on my copy that I have, I'm like, no milk, orange juice, apple juice. Like those are a thing. So he ends up grabbing he grabbed his apple juice. We went through the line. He's sitting at his table. So I back away while he's there with his peers. He has his talker with him. And our wonderful lunch TAs are just walking around talking to people. And he walks up, and a TA walks up to his table and is talking to one of the kids next to him. And I hear from his talker go, I want milk. straight to the TA.
Yes, he
To
does.
be like, yes. In that moment, he used all his things when I was stepped away from the table and he didn't think I was there listening, asking for milk, which so then she was like, okay, let's go get you some. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm so happy that you said what you wanted and what you needed. But I was like, no, buddy, I'm so sorry you can't have it. But it just
Yes.
like made me laugh because just like any typical kid, he was like, oh, I'm gonna get away with it. I'm going to get my chocolate milk.
Heck yes, I want chocolate milk. I'm gonna tell people I want chocolate milk. Well, good
Yes,
for him.
yes.
And again, just proves what a difference it makes to focus on that self-advocacy piece and to see communication holistically and to, a testament that he knows what he wants to say.
Exactly. Yeah, unprompted without me there, just, just like anything else, trying to get what he wants.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Taylor. I know that we have taken some great insights into our discussion today.
Yes, well, thank you for having me.
Laura here, back with another innovative activity. And this week we have this fun game called First Orchard. It's by Haba. We've got a few of these in the IRC and they're kind of new, but I wanted to talk to you about them because I love a good game that doesn't have a winner. And this is a game that is a cooperative game that you are all working together to try to beat this silly little raven. He is trying to gather your fruit before you gather the fruit to harvest it. And so it's a super fun game. I love the pieces. They're all wooden, so easily wiped down, and they're pretty large. And again, real objects. So we've got green apples, red apples, yellow pears, and blueberries. Like, how fun are these? And then you've got this die. And the premise of the game is basically that you take turns rolling the die. So lots of language opportunities there, right? My turn, your turn, I go, you go, the different colors on the dice. And then you want to try to all together get the different colors so that you can have you can get these fruits before this little raven moves along the path. And if he moves along the path and gets to the end first, then he gets all the fruit and you don't get to harvest it. So it's a super fun, very easy game, very quick game that we can use to carry over all of our language opportunities, work together as a team, cheer each other on, make comments, count, talk about colors, talk about teamwork, talk about harvesting. It'd be a great fall game activity if you're already doing some apple picking and harvesting and talking about that content. Um, it's just rated 2 and up. So I feel like it's a really good game to just kind of have in your classroom and work as a team. It'd be a quick 5-minute filler. Language opportunities across all different things, asking questions. Where's the apples? Who's next? Where's the raven? Lots of things. We're working together. We did it. All of those things can be language opportunities and also embedded across the day. So definitely check out. It's called First Orchard. There's at least 4 or 5 of them in the IRC. So it's a good one to check out. Enjoy.